You're muted, Bobbi.
Thank you. It's good to be back with you and unmuted. As Renee said, my name is Bobbi Beale. I'm a clinical psychologist by training, and I've spent my career working with children, youth at the intensive end of things like we do here in the system of care. And one of the things that has been on my mind is this idea of regulation, which is really just feeling okay. When we talk about people needing to be regulated, it's that they need to feel okay in their own body, in their own skin, in whatever situation they're in. And when we get amped up, upset, anxious, any strong emotion, really, it could tend to dysregulate us. Now, other things can dysregulate us, like being hungry, being too hot or too cold, different kinds of sensations, feeling threatened, those sorts of things as well. But basically, when people say we need to be regulated, what they're really saying is you need to be okay. You need to not be spinning around out of control or yelling or crying or those sorts of things. And one of the things that is often a goal in treatment with youth and families that we work with is to help them be self-regulated, meaning that when they can detect that they're feeling dysregulated, there are strategies that you can do to regulate yourself. It's not a lie. Those are definitely things that exist out there in the world. For instance, everybody could join me by sitting back from your screen for a moment instead of leaning in like we tend to do. Sit back, go ahead and roll your shoulders back. Let's take in a nice big breath. I like to do the arm raise when I do that because it expands your chest capacity. And as you exhale, let's do it one more time. Now, if you're a skilled person or adult who recognizes and rehearses the value of a deep breath and a long exhale, you might recognize that feeling that as you exhale, you feel a bit more relaxed, you feel more regulated, and that's wonderful. But we weren't upset to start with. We weren't distressed or feeling threatened. And one of the things that I've been focusing on and learning about over the past decade is how do we help people to recognize their distress or dysregulation? And how do we get kids to learn and utilize these skills? Because a lot of times when they're getting in trouble, when they're demonstrating bad behavior, it's really just dysregulated behavior. It means that they don't have their act together and they're spinning out of control a little bit. And this applies to adults and kids, but we're focused on the youth here in this echo. And so I have two short videos for you that I'd like to look at, and then we'll open it up for a little discussion about that. The first video is about how we should be developing adult capacity for regulation, because the more regulated we are, the more that's going to spread to the people that we work with. A calm nervous system calms nervous systems. And so when we hit the door, or we invite them in for a meeting, or we visit them in the schools, we can't meet them where they're at, being emotionally dysregulated or upset about things. We need to bring that calm presence with us, and that would be more helpful. So we're going to start with a video about building adult capacities and capabilities, and that will improve child outcomes. Okay, so this comes from the Center on the Developing Child at Harvard University, and the video is 5 minutes. So let me share my screen. Well, let me open up that video to full blast, and then I'll share my screen and make sure that you can hear the sound as well. And enjoy this video.
the social challenges that face modern societies, whether it's the ability to work productively, to be a good citizen, stay healthy, have their roots in early health and development. A strong foundation in early childhood results in much better and more effective development later. A weak foundation really puts us behind. The most important thing children need to thrive is to live in an environment of relationships that begins in their family, but also extends out to include adults who are family members in child care centers and other programs. What children need is for that entire environment of relationships to be invested in their healthy development. We've shown from decades of testing interventions that we can improve outcomes. But the magnitude of those impacts is not good enough. Science is now available to help us think about what we might do that would have a bigger impact than the best of what we've done before. So we began to ask, what could we be doing differently? What could we do to be smarter? Children who are at the greatest risk for the poorest outcomes in learning and health and behavior are children who experience a pileup, a cumulative burden of one after another of risk factors. And then the burden is more than any child could be expected to overcome. So we began to focus on the development of the adults. What could we be doing to strengthen the capacity of everyone who interacts with children? This led us to think about the kinds of skills you need to deal with adversity. These skills of focusing attention, planning, monitoring, delaying gratification, being able to solve problems, being able to work in teams, executive function and self-regulation. They're also the kind of skills you need to create a well-regulated home and school environment in which healthy development and learning can take place. And then brain science started to tell us that differences in those skills start to develop in infancy based on the environment kids live in. So how do those skills get built? Well, if you don't develop them early, how do you develop them later? Actually, you can build them later because the period of flexibility and plasticity for this part of the brain doesn't fully mature until age 25 to 30. So then the light bulb went on. The reason we're not getting a bigger impact is not because we don't know about how to influence development, but because we're giving information and advice to people who we need to do active skill building with. Skill building by coaching, by training, by practice, but we're not doing that. So we now have developed this theory of change that says we need to focus on the development of the adults who are important in kids' lives.
So try this.
How does that work?
That's a new idea. Buen trabajo.
We need to focus on their skills, their needs, in order for them to be better, more effective parents, in order for them to be better prepared to be employable, which would enhance the economic stability of the family, which is also good for children. Second of all, we looked at many people in preschool programs and child care centers. And we said, what are we doing to build those skills in the providers? They need skill building as well. And also the community can help to build and reinforce the capacities that parents need. And the community also includes programs in which the people who work in the programs have sufficient skills. Third of all, what are the major sources of toxic stress in this community and how can we reduce them? Moving it up to a policy level, how are our policies strengthening communities' abilities to reduce source of toxic stress and caregivers' abilities to provide what kids need? The development of our human capital is our future. The development of a productive workforce is our future. The development of a healthy population is our future. This kind of future orientation is critical for healthy society, it's critical for a thriving business, it's critical for successful environmental relationships to raise children. It's all about being able to plan for the future, to have a future. And that's why this is so important.
All right. Slide number 1. or video number 1. First of all, I'd like you to think a little bit about what did you notice in that video? Does it change any of the ways that you think about working with youth or the workers who work with youth? They really take it up a level. And I love those questions at the end. What do you think we're doing? And my question to you would be, since we're all on here because we are involved in or interested in the system of care, and we concurrently have the Ohio Rise project going on in the state of Ohio, trying to get the the deepest needs met appropriately by the systems that are supposed to be supporting these youth and families. I think that Ohio Rise is making some steps towards doing some of what we looked at right there. So questions, comments, connections. Would anybody like to put something in the chat or unmute yourself and talk out loud? We're not a giant group here today. I see we're up there now, approaching 50, but anybody have any thoughts about this first view?
I love that video. Maybe I feel like I can just play that for people sometimes instead of talking. Like there's a spiel I usually do, and now maybe I can just show them the video.
There's a handout attached to this, and it's going to have the links for the 2 videos and some other resources. And so this will be available to you, and it'll also go on the website where we have all the ECHO didactics. So thank you for that, and I'm glad you would use it, and that's exactly why I'm sharing it, because these things have been shared with me, and I find it more compelling to show it to people in a cartoon than just me to lecture at them about these sorts of things.
Yeah, the visual of the house is really helpful.
I see a comment in the chat about doing service coordination. And it's true, we do focus on providing services for children and youth and their families. But what about those caretakers? And we're in a workforce crisis, so as is everywhere. And so we really want to think about, how do we support our workforce? And would it be helpful to our workforce to get that kind of training and support? And we're gonna reveal some more resources for you if that interests you. Any other comments before I move on to the next video?
Yeah, I think as I watch the video, it just brings back to my mind that you have to support the whole family unit. I think in order to make sure that the kids and the children of our society are successful, they have to have successful supported caregivers. And that's professional caregivers, and that's also personal and family caregivers as well.
Thanks, Walter. Agreed. Anybody else? All right, then let's go ahead and play the second one, also just over 5 minutes. And this one is more about teaching you specifically about co-regulation, that it's really regulating with people that makes the biggest impact. All right, I hope you're seeing the correct screen. Yep, it looks like it. And I'm going to hit play.
You know that feeling when your alarm goes off on Friday morning at 5 a.m. Oh, to turn it off and go back to sleep. But today you have an important early meeting. So you take a deep breath, focus on the goal of completing that project you really care about, and you drag yourself out of bed. This is an example of what scientists call self-regulation. It's the act of managing our thoughts and feelings so we behave in ways that help us reach our goals. Self-regulation keeps you from saying something hurtful out loud to a coworker, like, "That's a really bad idea." Or, when you disagree with someone, self-regulation looks like choosing to communicate calmly and respectfully, because it's more important to you to take good care of that relationship than it is to win an argument. We need self-regulation to stay healthy and to succeed in school or at work, in relationships, and in life as a whole. It's a skill worth focusing on. Some think that self-regulation is something you're born being good at, or not. But this is a myth. anyone can build self-regulation skills over time, like a muscle. And as we build those muscles, we get better at important things, like managing strong emotions in healthy ways, staying on a task even when it's hard, and considering the perspectives of others so that our relationships can thrive. Research shows that adolescence is a critical window of opportunity for building self-regulation muscles because just like in early childhood, the brain is growing and building connections based on youth's experiences. This growth really impacts those areas of the brain that support self-regulation. One thing to know is the term self-regulation is misleading because we don't develop it by ourselves. Its development has much more to do with the people in a person's life and what's going on around them. When a person has nurturing and accepting relationships in supportive environments, self-regulation skills can grow. Whereas harsh or inconsistent relationships and stressful or chaotic environments short-circuit the development of self-regulation. Knowing that, just think of how important your influence can be on an adolescent's life. You have a powerful opportunity to help youth build their self-regulation skills by providing support through something called co-regulation. Co-regulation means having intentional interactions with young people that foster the skills they need to build healthy and happy lives. To co-regulate means to be caring, responsive, and accepting. Create nurturing, safe spaces to practice and learn. Teach and coach skills that build self-regulation muscles, all while practicing your own self-regulation. Co-regulation happens when we intentionally synchronize these actions as we manage our own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. So often, adults take a step back from youth as they hit adolescence, when what youth really need during this time is the opposite. There are many ways to grow your skills as a co-regulator. We'll offer 3. First, practice improving your own self-regulation. It's good for you, and it's important to model when working with youth. Second, build warm relationships and nurturing environments. Imagine yourself as a young person in your program. Do you feel cared for, accepted, and known by the staff? Does the environment feel supportive to you as an individual? Third, coach self-regulation skills. Help youth reframe mistakes as opportunities to try something new and to build their self-regulation muscles. When youth practice their skills, they improve those skills and feel better about themselves. These things may be part of your practice already, but now you have a name, co-regulation, for the kind of support you want to provide. And there's always more to learn. As an adult working with adolescents, you matter. Don't underestimate the impact you can have on their lives. From how you greet each young person in the morning, to the coaching conversations you have, to how you react in front of youth when things don't go exactly the way you planned. Using a co-regulation approach can support a young person in ways that matter to them now and in their future. Fostering a co-regulation mindset is an investment worth making for all of us.
Alrighty, I wanted to make sure I left it on long enough to get all the references and connections there. But that was the second video, and I hope you caught on that the message is we need to be regulated and we can share that neurobiology that we have inside of us. Will transfer and we can share it in terms of skill building and supporting the youth that we work with. And so it's just a little different slant on the whole concept of regulation. And I think it's very worth exploring. The last thing I want to share with you, and I'll open it up to questions and discussions after that, is the website where this came from. So this comes from the OPRE office, which is a federal office, and the Office of Prevention and Research and Education, I think is what it stands for. But I have a friend in that office by the name of Dr. Alita Meyer, and she's been sharing with me their work on co-regulation for years. And this just came out. And I thought I wanted to turn around and share it with this audience because I think it could be very helpful. So here is the third and final thing about this didactic, and that is this website. And again, you're going to get a one-pager that you have access to that has the links to all three things, but the link for the last video that you just saw is right at the top of their page that we're going to direct you to. And you can get the video there or through another link. But what I really want you to see is that they have this chart of resources and blogs that depend on who you're working with and what you're looking for. So if you're working with people across the lifespan, that would be families and people in any age group, they have some resources that exist for that. If you're specifically working with infancy, through young adulthood, they have co-regulation from birth through young adulthood, a practice brief. And they have other ones that are specific to different age groups: infants and toddlers, preschool age kids, elementary age kids, middle school, high school, young adults, those transition age kids that cross over. And you can see these resources go on and on. And there are other links to research and evaluation projects. So I just wanted you to see what kind of resources were available to you, including those two videos. Does anybody have any questions or comments before I turn it back over to Renee? All right, then that concludes movie time for the Echo. And we'll go on to the casework time.